Hello there, my name is Brad Bilski. I am your instructor for our BA 252 course this December mini, the Principles of Microeconomics class. This video is going to give you a brief rundown of what you can expect from the class. I'm going to go over the syllabus and walk you through our course page on Sakai. So if any of you haven't used Sakai before, this will be a good introduction to what you can expect from that platform. You can actually find this syllabus on Sakai if you go to our course page here. And just a brief overview of what we're seeing here. You have a bunch of different tabs on the left-hand side. So notice our course here is highlighted BA 252. Each week we're going to have a different module. So right now I'm in the week number 1 module, and we're going to go through this in a minute where I'll show you all this stuff in detail. But for our purposes right now, I just wanted to point out, if you wanted to kind of look over the syllabus in front of you while you're watching the video, you can pause the video and click on our syllabus tab here. And if you double click on the syllabus, you'll have access to an electronic version of that. And I'll come back and talk about these different tabs here in a bit. First off, just want to kind of go through the highlights of the syllabus. My contact information, my email is right here, bbilski@tennesseewesleyan.edu. I try to check that daily during the week, so you should definitely get a response from me within 24 hours during the work week. Typically on the weekends I try to check it as well, but maybe not quite as often. If you ever needed to talk with me face to face, just send me an email. We could work out a Skype session, or we could figure out a phone call or something if email doesn't work for you. But being this is an online class, it's really important that we have those open lines of communication. So anytime you have an issue, a question, problem, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact me with it. Our course descriptions down here. And again, this is a class in microeconomics. So economics is broken into 2 broad categories: microeconomics and macroeconomics. So microeconomics looks at smaller units within the economy. We look at individual companies, how they make decisions about prices they charge, how much they're going to produce. We also look at decisions made by individual consumers, how they decide what they're going to purchase and why they make certain purchases. Macroeconomics, on the other hand, that looks at bigger units in the economy. That's like the economy overall, looking at industries or looking at economy-wide data like the unemployment rate, the inflation rate. So for this course, we're going to focus on micro. There is some crossover in both courses. You talk about supply and demand. You just look at it from a little different perspective in macroeconomics versus micro. So if you do end up taking the macroeconomics class down the road, or if you've taken macro already, you're going to have seen a few of the things in this course, but most of the material should be new to you. And notice we have our course level learning outcomes here. We touched on supply and demand already. We're going to put a lot of emphasis, especially during the first week, on the study of supply and demand. And really the idea behind supply and demand is we're trying to figure out what the price for a good or service in the market should be based on people's willingness to buy that good and based on suppliers' willingness to produce that good at different possible prices. We're going to talk a lot about government intervention in the economy and the role that the government plays in economic development and regulating economic activity. We're going to look at different types of industries. So here, learning objective number 3, analyzing market structures. We're going to talk about different industries. You've all probably are familiar with the term monopoly from the board game. That's a situation where you have one dominant company in an industry, compared to a situation where you have perfect competition, where maybe there's hundreds or thousands of companies competing in industry. So we'll look at that whole gamut of the way industries are kind of set up and how companies operate differently based on the type of industry they're working within. We'll also look in detail with the idea of elasticity, basically looking at how people respond to changes in price and how suppliers respond to changes in price for their goods. And also this idea of marginal analysis. Anytime you hear that word marginal in economics, just think a slight change. So we're going to use marginal analysis to look at a bunch of different concepts and ideas. A few of them, the marginal product of labor, for instance, looks at if we hire one more person to work in our business or work on a shift, how much extra stuff do we produce? The marginal product of capital, likewise, if we add one extra piece of equipment or machinery, how much extra stuff do we produce? So those are some general kind of topics we're going to talk about, and we'll delve into those in a lot more detail. Every chapter we work through, you're going to see individual learning objectives for that chapter to kind of give you a heads up as to what you can expect to learn from those particular chapters. I'm not going to go through every single detail on the syllabus. You can kind of go through a lot of this stuff on your own. I just want to highlight on the major points. Our text right here is Economics for Today, written by Dr. Tucker. It is the 10th edition. You see the ISBN number right here. If you have the Cengage package, this is one of the books that will be included with that package. You're going to need to get that as quickly as possible. This is a very accelerated class, right? We're in less than a month, we're going to cover a whole semester's worth of materials. So you're getting the same content you'd get as if you took this class for the entire spring or fall semester. So you really don't want to fall behind early. And getting into the assignments and whatnot, we're going to have basically 5 quizzes each week. So we're going to cover 5 chapters a week for the first 3 weeks. Then the last couple of days of the semester will be devoted towards working through our project and our final exam. Each of those quizzes is basically worth 2% of your grade, so 15 times 2 is 30%. Those are always due on Sunday evenings, so the first Sunday of the class, the December 22nd, you're going to have your first batch of 5 quizzes due. It's probably a good idea to try to work on a chapter a day. Spend a couple hours reading through the chapter, working through the quiz. We're also going to have a homework and a discussion board post due every week. And again, those are due on Sundays as well. So there'll be 3 forums, and there's also going to be 3 homework assignments through the semester. So that's in addition to those 15 quizzes. And we have that semester end project, and we have one exam that's worth 30% of your grade. So that final exam is comprehensive. It covers everything in the course, and basically it's very similar to the quizzes, but it's like a supersized quiz where we're covering all the prior content from the previous 3 weeks. And we can see down here the course outline. And again, this goes into a little bit more detail on the particular topics we're going to cover in each chapter. Notice we have the due dates down here. So your first quiz is out there and available right now, and usually on Monday mornings the quizzes open and all 5 will be available. For this first week of class, for the first day or two, I just have quiz number 1 open. Once I see a couple folks have got in there and completed that quiz and there was no issues with it, I'll go ahead and post the other 4 quizzes for the week. And if we go back here and click on week number 1, notice for each particular chapter, there's a little heading or highlight of what the chapter is. So this is kind of like a home page right here for week number 1. You could click on each chapter that's covered in the week. So we'll get a chapter 1 first off. And this shows you the learning objectives for the chapter. So just giving you a breakdown of what you should expect to get out of that chapter. We have, again, kind of the highlight or the overview of the chapter. You see down here at the very bottom, you have a link to the quiz, so you can click on that. And the quizzes are going to be basically, for the most part, 10-question multiple choice quizzes. You always want to hit your honor pledge. You're allowed to use your notes and your books as you work through the quizzes, but we want you to do your own work. So no helping one another when you're working through those quizzes. And basically just come in here and you select what you think is the right answer. And I'm not going to say A is right there, but just for an example, I press A, then I go to the next one, and so forth. So, I mean, that's all you're going to do to work through the quizzes. So there's 5 of those each week. I see sometimes students kind of procrastinate and wait till the weekend to try to do all 5. Of course, it's much easier if you spread them out throughout the week. And it's also going to be a lot more helpful for when you do take the final exam and work on your final project if you slowly kind of took in this information over the course of the first 3 weeks. If you're doing all this stuff in 1 or 2 days per week and you're kind of cramming it all in there, that makes it a lot more difficult for recall purposes later on. And just a couple other highlights here of what's going on in Sakai. If we go back to our homepage for week number 1, you'll notice at the bottom of this page, you're going to have your link for your assignment and also for your discussion board. So usually with the assignments and discussion boards, I'll give you like a video or an article, some outside resource you're going to look into, and you'll answer some questions about that. For instance, this first one's going to require you to watch a short video about supply and demand, and then you see you have the video link here. It's on YouTube, and then you'll just answer these questions. So you could just go into this text box here and start typing your answers in and hit submit when you're done, and that'll send it on to me. And likewise, when you're doing your discussion board for the week, if you go to the week number 1 module, you'll see a link down there. You can just double click on that link. And for both the assignment and the discussion board, this is one way to access those assignments. You could also do that directly through these tabs here. So you can go to the forums tab, and again, that's going to give you the link for the week number 1 discussion board there. Likewise, if you click on that assignments tab, you'll see that you can go directly to the list of our assignments there as well. So just a couple other things to be aware of in Sakai. Under resources, you'll see different information will be included there from time to time. I'll post review notes and so forth. Your grade book's going to house your grades. You have a running total of what your scores are for the course. And you'll notice week 2, 3, and 4 I kind of have those closed out. They'll always open Monday morning, so if it's like 9, 10 o'clock Monday morning and for some reason you can't get in to that week's module, let me know. There's something kind of funky going on with the system if that's the case. All right, so I think that's a pretty good breakdown of Sakai. One last thing here is the announcements. Anytime I post a new announcement, I'll send that out directly to you, and you can see all the old announcements kind of in this announcements tab. Just to be aware, you should check your email every day during the week. I reserve the right to make changes to the schedule or the course, but obviously if that does occur, I'm going to let you know about that, but you got to be checking that email regularly just to make sure you're getting any communications that might be sent out. All right, so that about does it for the class, just and for this overview. Just real quick to review the due dates here again. The first 5 quizzes, these are due on the 22nd. Your homework and that discussion board is due that Sunday evening as well. And it's just the same format down the line. So week number 2, we're covering the next 5 chapters in the book. Sunday the 29th, those 5 quizzes are due, plus your homework and discussion board. Same deal with the 3rd batch of work. Notice the 5th chapter in week number 3, chapter 28, that doesn't go in sequential order. So notice these are all in order, 1 through 5, 6 through 10, until we get to 28. That's kind of an outlier chapter. That could be covered in either macro or micro, but we're just going to kind of cover it micro. And this whole last week's kind of a special topics week. So the first week, we're going to talk about some of the basics of economics, looking at supply and demand, markets, elasticity. Week number 2, starting to look at the choices consumers make. We're looking at how industries are kind of structured. Then the 3rd week is kind of looking at kind of one-off issues in economics. So we have some of the core ideas of microeconomics under our belts. By week 3, we can start applying this stuff to some higher level real-world problems at that point. And on January 9th, that's our final exam. And January 10th is going to be our semester end project. So as we get closer to the exam and project, I'll send you some information and talk about those in a lot more detail. All right, so that was my overview for the course. If you have any questions, again, never hesitate to get in contact with me. I'd be happy to go over any questions you might have. And best of luck this semester. Look forward to working with you.